Okay, so for this first calculation, we're going to have a wee look at some percentage yield questions. So this is the first one, and it's telling you that a student used 2.5 grams of ethanol and a slight excess of ethanoic acid, and that produced 2.9 grams of ethyl ethanoate. What we first need to do is, I'm going to take out the two things I'm interested in, which is ethanol and ethyl ethanoate. And I'm going to basically make a mole ratio for that, just to make it easier, so we've not got loads of things flying about that we don't need. We'll do a mole ratio, and because you should remember from your esters that 1 mole of ethanol would react with 1 mole of ethanoic acid, and that would give you 1 mole of ethyl ethanoate. So they're going to be a 1-to-1 mole ratio. And the GFMs are 46 and 88. So what we can do is we can work out the number of moles that we actually have of ethanol and use that to work out a theoretical yield of ethyl ethanoate. When I do this, I have 3 steps I like to follow for percentage yields. 1 is to calculate the number of moles. 2 is to use a mole ratio. And then number 3 is to calculate the mass. And that's going to be the theoretical yield. So let's go for the calculation. I'm going to use N equals mass over gram formula mass. And that is going to be 2.5 divided by 46. That gives us 0.0543 moles. And because that's a 1-to-1 mole ratio, this is my second step now, I'm using the mole ratio. It's also 0.0543 moles of ethyl ethanoate, your ester. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my mass equals N times GFM to work out the theoretical mass, or the theoretical yield. And the GFM for this is 88. That gives me a theoretical yield of 4.78 grams. Then, the last step of this, which I didn't mention because it's just the kind of next step, this is the easiest bit of the whole calculation, is to work out the percentage yield. And that is going to be actual yield over theoretical yield times by 100. That works out to be 2.9 divided by 4.78 and times that by 100, and that gives you 60.67%. And that is how you do a percentage yield calculation. I'm just going to go to the next one. I'm not going to talk through it, I'm just going to go for it, and then you should be able to see my working for this. And I'm going to pause this here, just so that if you need to pause, you can read through the question and zoom in and do what you need to do. Here's the next one. Okay, so here's a second past paper question, and basically we've got this. I'm just going to go through it. It's the same kind of steps as the last one until we get to the percentage yield bit, which is slightly different. So I'm just going to work my way through. You can pause here if you want to read through the question first, but I'm just going to go for it. Just a wee side note here, notice that it mentions kilograms. I don't actually have to change this into grams because I'm going to have that will just make sure that my answer on the other side is in kilograms, which I actually do want, so that's fine. So actually this wouldn't be 1.5 moles, it would be 1,500 moles, but if you're working in kilograms, it works out to be 1.5 moles, because there's a times them by 1,000 in there. So maths. And then this will come out an answer in kilograms. Oops. That's 141 kilograms. Okay, the second step here, or like after you've done your 3 steps, you've worked out the number of moles, you've used the mole ratio, and then you've worked out your mass. The next step is to work out the percentage yield, except this is not actually asking for percentage yield, it's asking for the mass that you would have if you had a percentage yield of 90%. So what we'd do is we would work this out as, we know our theoretical yield, and what we're going to do is our actual yield is going to be the percentage times your theoretical yield. And that is like, if you rearrange the equation, that's how you get it. So it's going to be 90% of 141 kilograms. So that's the same as doing 0.9 times by 141 kilograms. That ends up being 126.9 kilograms. So don't overthink this. This is just simple maths at this point. And that's how we do those. That's that kind of, maybe for some of you, slightly more tricky percentage yield question. There you go.